Are you frustrated with your current quilting skills and looking for tips to help you improve? Well, stay tuned, because in this video, I'm going to share with you my favorite skills that I learned to help me up my quilting game. My name is Tammy. Thanks for tuning in. Now let's get right into it. For me, determining whether I had an accurate 1/4 inch seam or a scant 1/4 inch seam was very important to help me improve my quilting confidence. So using a 1/4 inch foot, I determined that I had a pretty accurate 1/4 inch seam, and so now all I do is just stay consistent with where I place the fabric on my throat plate of the sewing machine and use that foot, and it improved my quilting game. Determining your stitch length and your tension is another tip that helps you improve your quilting confidence. So for me, I like to sew on vintage sewing machines. You see Juan Pablo here. He is 75 years old. He's a Singer 201-2. And so determining a specific stitch length on him is very difficult to do. So what I did is I just did trial after trial after trial until I achieved a stitch length that was satisfactory to me. And what I mean by satisfactory to me is that, you know, we're bound to make mistakes as we're sewing. And so the stitch length that allows you to use a seam ripper and get in and take those stitches out and then get back into it, the fastest to me is the proper stitch length. The tension is also what helps improve the quality of your stitches. For those of you who have the newer machines, you are able to dial in specific stitch lengths like 2.5, 2.0, or 3. So go ahead and do that. And for those of you who are using newer machines, you also have the ability to adjust the tensions. So on my machines, I don't have all that technology. I'm old school. I am doing it manually. But find out what works best for you and leave down in the comments below. Let me know what type of machine you're sewing on and if you have figured out how to improve your stitch length and tension so that you are satisfied with the quality of your seams. This one here is an absolute game changer. Again, I sew on vintage sewing machines. And so for me, my feed dogs on my machines are very powerful. So what that was doing was it was sucking the fabric into the throat plate, making a hot mess. And so then I decided, what's going on here? And I started to starch my fabric. If you haven't seen my video on the different type of starches, click here. I'll link it either here or down below. And so you can watch that. But when you have powerful feed dogs, they suck the fabric into the throat plate. So a way to prevent that is to sew with a leader. And a leader is basically like, I don't have one right here, but like a piece of fabric that's folded over, a scrap piece of fabric, and you start your stitches on that fabric, and then you feed your quilting pieces after the leader has already begun. And what that does is it keeps the stitches and the tension even so that it doesn't suck the fabric down into the throat plate. For those of you who are using a modern machine, you probably won't have that problem because the feed dogs and the tension are more balanced than it is with vintage sewing machines. But just knowing that hack is a major game changer for your quilting skills. The other thing is, depending on what type of fabric you're using, when you're quilting, whether you are upcycling and you're using, let's say, some old denim, or you're using an old shirt, or you just may be using quilting cotton from the store or from a website, all those different fabrics are going to give your feed dogs a different type of work, and you need to test in advance to make sure that the tension and the feed dog power is balanced so that as you start sewing on your good fabric, you don't make as many mistakes. Next, listen. You absolutely need to become one with your machine. All of my machines have a name. This right here happens to be Juan Pablo, and in the back over there, that's Quincy. So all of my machines have a name because they all have different personalities. So it's very important to know the different sounds that your machine makes. For example, if you hear a grinding sound, if you hear like a clicking sound, those can all be indicators that something is not going right with those stitches, and you need to stop when you hear those sounds and investigate so that you can catch a problem before it gets too big. So for example, I know with Juan Pablo here, he makes a certain sound, and when I hear that sound, I'm like, uh-oh, my bobbin is getting low. There's another sound that Juan Pablo makes when he sews, and then I go, okay, he's about to start bird nesting. So just know your machine and know those sounds, and stop when you hear the sound and troubleshoot it before it becomes a hot mess. What I've learned thus far on my quilting journey is to become one with your machine. Your machine is your partner. Your machine is what's helping you to create these beautiful projects. So becoming intimate with your machine, I think, really helps improve your quilting confidence. The other thing is, keep trying. It is very frustrating to sit down to sew and to piece together your fabric. You spend a lot of time cutting it out, and then you piece it together and you're like, what in the world is this? And there's something wrong. It bird nested underneath. The stitches are inconsistent, or it didn't make a stitch because your bobbin thread ran out. Just become one with your machine and get to know it, and that'll really help improve your quilting confidence. It's going to take trial and error. I mean, you're going to have to make a lot of mistakes. You're going to learn from the mistakes. You're going to become frustrated. You're going to want to quit. That's normal and natural, but just push through. I promise you, you will get to the other side and you will have quilting nirvana.